Okay, so today we're diving into a story about a king, a temple, and a whole lot of bronze.
Sounds intriguing. Where are we headed in the Bible this time?
We're in the books of Kings, specifically 1 Kings, chapters 7 through 9. It's all about King Solomon, and get this, his decision to build not one, but two massive structures.
Two NASA structures. A king's got to have options. Give us the details.
Well, one was, of course, his palace. The Bible really goes all out describing the luxury, think cedar from Lebanon, imported stone, those kinds of lavish details.
Right, got to make an impression. So this palace was clearly meant to showcase Solomon's wealth and power.
Absolutely. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The second mega project Solomon takes on is building a temple, a place of worship for the God of Israel.
Now that's fascinating. So we had these two ambitious building projects happening side by side, one for the king, one for God.
And the authors of Kings really seem to draw a parallel between the two, almost as if they're inviting us to compare Solomon's earthly power with his devotion to something greater.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And speaking of power, the Bible makes it clear that Solomon wasn't exactly operating on a shoestring budget. His palace alone took 13 years to build. Can you imagine the logistics involved in a project that massive back then?
It boggles the mind.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about the temple. Solomon brought in a true master craftsman for that job, a guy named Hiram, all the way from Tyre.
Hiram of Tyre. Now that name rings a bell. Wasn't Tyre known for something specific?
You're right. In those days, Tyre was like the Silicon Valley of craftsmanship. They were famous for their metalworking skills, especially with bronze.
Ah, that's it. And they controlled major trade routes, too, making them a force to be reckoned with, both economically and politically.
Exactly. So by bringing in Hiram, Solomon isn't just getting a skilled worker, he's making a statement. It's like he's saying, look at my connections, look at the resources I have access to. This temple is going to be epic.
It's a power move, for sure. It also tells us a lot about the political landscape of the time. Solomon clearly knows how to forge alliances and leverage international relations to achieve his goals.
Absolutely. And when it came to the temple, Hiram really delivered. He created some incredible pieces, like those massive bronze pillars that stood at the entrance.
Those are iconic. Even today, people still debate their symbolic meaning. What were their names again? It's like they're etched in my brain, but just out of reach.
Jachin and Boaz. And you're right, their meaning is a bit of a mystery. The Bible describes them, but doesn't give a clear-cut definition.
I love that. It's like the biblical authors left us a little riddle to solve.
It certainly adds an extra layer of intrigue. But those pillars are just the tip of the iceberg. We also have to talk about the sea, a massive bronze basin that Hiram created for the temple.
The sea. Okay, now you have my full attention. Was this some kind of elaborate fountain? A giant bird bath?
Not quite. Picture this, a gigantic bronze basin, more like a pool really, large enough to hold 2,000 baths of water, according to the Bible.
Whoa, 2,000 baths? That's like a lot of baths. What in the world do they need all that water for?
It seems excessive, right? But to understand the sea, we need to look at the bigger picture of ancient Near Eastern culture, specifically the role of ritual purity.
Okay, ritual purity. That rings a bell. Remind me, what was the significance of that again?
Basically, it was the idea that you needed to cleanse yourself physically and spiritually before approaching the divine. Many ancient cultures had these rituals, and water was a big part of it.
Ah, I see. So it wasn't just about hygiene. It was about preparing yourself to enter a sacred space.
Exactly. And since the temple was considered the dwelling place of God, a place of ultimate holiness, it makes sense that they'd go all out with the ritual cleansing.
So the sea was basically a giant holy water basin, a place for priests and worshipers to purify themselves before participating in temple rituals.
Precisely. And the sheer size of it. It's a testament to how important these rituals were and how many people were expected to participate.
It really boggles the mind to think about the logistics of it all. They weren't messing around when it came to building a house for God.
They certainly weren't. But, as fascinating as the architecture and the bronze work are, for me, the real heart of the story lies in Solomon's prayer, dedicating the temple.
Oh, you're right. We can't forget about the prayer. It's in that prayer that we get a glimpse into Solomon's heart, his hopes and fears for this magnificent building he's created.
It's not just a quick thanks for coming kind of prayer either. It's long, it's detailed, and it's packed with emotion. We have to dive into that in our next part.
I'm already hooked. This is turning into quite the deep dive.
Okay, so we're back and ready to unpack this prayer. It's not every day you dedicate a mega temple, right?
You got that right. It's a pretty big deal. And the prayer reflects that. Solomon really goes all in. And it's fascinating because it's not just praise. There's some real wrestling going on in there.
Oh, Wrestling with what? Like theological dilemmas kind of wrestling.
Exactly. On the one hand, he's clearly proud of this temple, right? Like, look what I built for you, God. But then he hits this point where he acknowledges something really profound.
I'm on the edge of my seat here. What's the profound thing?
Solomon basically says, even the heavens, the vastness of the cosmos, can't contain God. So how could this temple, even one as magnificent as this, truly be God's dwelling place?
That's a pretty humbling realization, especially right after you've finished a massive construction project.
Right. It speaks to that tension that's always existed in religious thought, the desire to give the divine a physical home, something we can see and touch, while also recognizing that God's true nature transcends all physical limitations.
So he's grappling with God's immensity, that God is both present in this temple and also infinitely bigger than it.
Exactly. And that's a concept that's echoed throughout Scripture, the idea that our connection to the divine isn't bound by bricks and mortar.
It's more about the heart, right? Our inner commitment, rather than just outward displays.
Absolutely. And I think that that's something Solomon himself was wrestling with. Remember all the opulence of his palace, the show of wealth and power? Makes you wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was a part of him that thought he could, in a way, contain God too. Like by building this amazing temple, he was somehow ensuring God's favor.
It's like he's trying to impress God, maybe even control the relationship a little.
It's a very human impulse, right? To want to bargain with the divine, to offer something tangible in exchange for blessings. And that's what makes God's response to Solomon's prayer so interesting.
Okay, I've got to ask, how does God respond? Does he send down a lightning bolt of approval, a thumbs up emoji?
Not quite, but it's definitely dramatic. According to the story, God appears to Solomon in a vision.
No way. A face-to-face with God? What's that like? What does God say?
Well, imagine being Solomon in that moment. Right. The weight of his ambition, his doubts, his hopes, all laid bare before the creator of the universe. And God does two things. He affirms Solomon's efforts, acknowledges the temple as a place where people can connect with him.
Okay, so God's not angry. That's good.
Oh, good.
It's definitely a good sign.
Why?
And this is a big but. There's a warning attached.
Uh-oh. Here comes the but. There's always a but.
Right. And this one's a doozy. God basically tells Solomon, this temple, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong, but don't even think for a second that it guarantees you or your descendants a free pass. Your reign, your legacy, all of it hinges on one thing.
And that one thing is obedience. Straight up, God tells him that the fate of his entire dynasty depends on their faithfulness to his laws. Not the temple, not the gold, not the cedar, but their actions, their choices, their hearts.
So it's like a reality check from God. A reminder that true devotion isn't about extravagant buildings, but about how you live your life.
Exactly. And that takes us to the final chapter of our story, because remember those flaws we talked about? That human tendency toward pride and misplaced priorities? Well, let's just say that Solomon's story doesn't end quite the way you might expect.
Okay, so Solomon's story doesn't have a happy ending. I mean, after all that, what could go wrong?
Well, that's the thing about human nature, isn't it? We're complex creatures capable of great faith and, unfortunately, spectacular missteps.
So what happened? Did Solomon completely forget God's warning?
It seems like those good intentions we talked about, they kind of got sidetracked along the way.
Sidetracked by details, please.
The Bible is pretty clear that as Solomon got further into his reign, he started getting entangled with the worship of other gods, idols.
Wait, seriously? Idolatry. But he just built this entire temple dedicated to the God of Israel.
I know, right? It seems almost unbelievable. You'd think that experience, God appearing to him like that, would have solidified things. But the text says he allowed himself to be influenced by, well, other influences.
Okay, so maybe power corrupts. Did all that wealth and influence go to his head?
It's definitely a classic cautionary tale, isn't it? And the Bible doesn't explicitly say this is why he strayed, but it does point out how, despite having wisdom, he still made choices that contradicted God's laws.
So that whole obedience thing, the thing God literally just emphasized, kind of went out the window.
Pretty much. And that's what makes this story so relevant even today. It's a reminder that we're all susceptible to that temptation, to prioritize the things we can see and touch over the things that really matter.
It's like we build our own idols, right? Not literal golden statues maybe, but things we put before our faith, our values.
Exactly. And it's not always a conscious choice either. It's often a slow drift, a gradual shifting of our priorities until we wake up one day and realize we're no longer on the path we thought we were on.
So what's the takeaway here? Because honestly, this is kind of a downer ending to what started as a pretty impressive story.
I don't think it's necessarily a downer ending. I think it's a realistic one. Solomon's story reminds us that even the most impressive achievements, even something as magnificent as a temple, don't guarantee our spiritual integrity.
It's not about the outward show. It's about what's going on inside.
Exactly. And that inner work, that commitment to aligning our actions with our beliefs, that's an ongoing process. It requires constant vigilance, constant self-reflection.
Makes you think twice about what you're building in your own life, right? What foundations are you laying? What values are you prioritizing?
Absolutely. And it's a question we should all be asking ourselves regularly, because the truth is, the most important temple we'll ever build isn't made of stone or cedar or even bronze.
It's the temple we build within ourselves, our own hearts and minds, the way we choose to live and love and treat others.
That's the legacy that truly endures, long after the gold and the grandeur have faded away.
Wow. To our listener, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been a journey through ancient architecture, political maneuvering, and some seriously big questions about faith and human nature. We hope this conversation is giving you something to ponder, something to reflect on as you go about building your own life's work. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep building something meaningful.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.